What up, everyone? You know who I am. I'm Jack Slater, the comic outlaw. Yeah. And I just got back from having a little fun. Ah, so hard being perfect, isn't it? It's a curse and a gift, I tell you. But we're not here to discuss Jack Slater. Jack Slater can discuss Jack Slater forever. No, we're talking about another man who lived up to the moniker before Jack Slater. Mr. Perfect himself, Curt Hennig. And this is the 2-disc set here. Kind of discussing Mr. Perfect's life a little bit. As you can see, boom. Now, Mr. Perfect, back in the day, when he was Curt Hennig, is a second generation superstar. His father was Larry the Axe Hennig. And if you watch any Roddy Piper interview, he was the man that kind of knocked Roddy Piper out in 5 seconds during Roddy's first match. So let me tell you, Larry the Axe Hennig was one tough son of a bitch. Big, mean. And his son, Mr. Perfect, Curt Hennig, actually had a very different style from his father. He was more technical. He could move around the ring. He had skill. He had a big mouth. Everything that you need to be a superstar. Now, the interesting thing about him is that during the 80s, there were territories, but the territories were starting to close out because Vince McMahon was buying these territories up or taking the talent and having this grand idea for a national cable show. Because cable back in the day, before like there was one single like entity, there was channel stations here and channel stations there, local news, local this, local that, and the territories were like that. They had different wrestling territories in different areas. Now, Hennig got his start in 1980, which gave him an opportunity to kind of go back and forth between different regions, like him and his father winning the Pacific Northwest titles, tag titles. He would win that a few times, and it showed that Hennig had a gift for tag teams. He was a savant when it came to it, actually. So he bounced back and forth until he reached his home in AWA. And AWA is where he really made his bones, where he really started to really take off. And at this point, he met a young Scott Hall, and they also became tag team champions. Now, Hennig also had a drive for the gold. And after beating Nick Bockwinkel, and if you don't know who Nick Bockwinkel is, Nick Bockwinkel back in the AWA was a supreme champion. He could talk, he could move. Man, he could talk. He had a big mouth about him. And actually, he was one of the first people that Bobby Heenan actually started managing. Of course, Heenan wasn't managing him at this point. But this allowed Hennig to kind of do a heel turn. Ended up cheating when Larry Zbyszko gave him the opportunity to, and became the AWA champion. And Hennig's run will last, I think, about 52, 54 weeks on top. And he would also, at this point, team up with Diamond Dallas Page, and then women's champion, a young Medusa, trying to put as much distance between him and other opponents. Eventually, he would get into a fight with like Verne Gagne, stuff like that, which he would team up with his dad again, actually. He did a lot of teaming up with his dad. It was very interesting because Hennig at this point, the Axe was big, and he could still do what he does, just in smaller doses. And Curt really did a good job in carrying the team. Now, of course, all good things don't last. Hennig ended up losing the title, of course. But this is around the time where Vince's boom in the wrestling kind of really started with the Ultimate Warrior, Hogan, the Macho Man. So it was in that first boom period that he recruited Curt Hennig. And these vignettes started to pop up around 1988 about this guy that would just do everything perfect. He would do a three-pointer, half court. He would hit a home run on command, bowl a perfect 300 game, actually throw himself a pass, and run and catch it. Absolutely perfect. And the name really fit Curt Hennig Mr. Perfect. He did everything perfect. He did his little towel thing perfect. He would spit the gum out and slap it with his hand. Never missing, not one time on TV missing. That's a lot to be accomplished right there. And I'm not even talking about his in-ring stuff yet. Oh, man. Now, Hennig had a program set up with Hogan after winning a little bit, here and there. And this feud, of course, due to Hogan's stroke, just kind of fizzled out. I mean, Hennig did have a lot of good moments from it, like taking the belt and smashing it with a hammer, which leads to the legend of the hardcore title being that smash title. And, Hennig wasn't going to win. I mean, this is the era of Hogan, and this was the problem I saw in WWE is a lot of people, there was a lot of good heels and a lot of opportunity there to kind of spread it around, but Hogan wasn't going to lose that title to just anyone. Even back then, he had a fair amount of stroke. I mean, as much as you say that this man didn't have any power, he did. For example, Hennig was supposed to win the 1990 Royal Rumble. Kind of a makeup for, not getting to be champion or anything like that. But Hogan used his stroke, and Hogan ended up winning. Big surprise. So Hennig kind of bounced around for a bit. And let's see, he had his first loss against the Ultimate Warrior. And then, of course, Hogan's buddy, Brutus the Barber Beefcake. And then the feud kind of ended with Hogan when he beat him decisively in, another match. And so Hennig kind of bounced around for a bit, and then he won the Intercontinental title. And this actually did wonders for Hennig because he had a fantastic Intercontinental title run. Which, of course, he ended up losing. And then he ended up losing in a great fashion, a great match. One of the best matches I've seen against Bret Hart. Now, keep in mind, Hennig had 4 fucked up discs, and his tailbone was pretty much falling apart at this point. And he gave the fans one hell of a good match. Now, due to back-related injuries, Hennig did have to retire for a bit. And after that, Hennig became one hell of a good announcer. He was perfect for the job. And he did great things with Piper, McMahon. He had one hell of a mind on him. And he could talk like it was nobody's business. He actually coined the phrase, Heartbreak Kid, for Shawn Michaels. He gave him that name. Think about that. With just some quick wit, he gave Shawn Michaels the name that he would use for the rest of his career. If that isn't a perfect announcer, I don't know what is. But anyways, Hennig would want to come back to the ring. And Hennig would have a few matches here with Shawn Michaels. He would have matches with Triple H, making these new rookies, kind of making them, because the new generation is coming up, and Hennig was basically used as talent enhancement. He was a main eventer, and he could make these people like Razor Ramon. He made Razor Ramon, his old friend Scott Hall, when he was coming up. But Hennig kind of got tired of the announcing, kind of got tired of everything, and he went to WCW. Now, WCW was a very interesting time because the NWO was big ball and shot calling, and Hennig came in not as a member of the NWO, like a lot of the guys did. He came in as like a free agent, and he was being courted by both the Horsemen and the NWO. Because at this point, Rude and a bunch of the other guys were like, back and forth. Rude was one of his friends. Rude actually went to school with him in high school. So they've been beating people up since high school. But Hennig would end up joining the Four Horsemen after Arn Anderson offered him his spot. Yeah, I'm going to say it like that because if you've seen the vignette of what the NWO did, mimicking the Horsemen, I thought it was hilarious myself, but other people think it was in poor taste. But I recall Ric Flair saying that he bossed Miss Elizabeth, before Savage did during the WWE time. So, it's really perspective. Anyways, this would not be true because during War Games, In the double cage, Hennig would fake an injury. He would turn on Ric Flair, slamming his head in the cage. And Hennig would become the newest member of the NWO. Now, Hennig would have a few matches here and there. He would win the United States title, but his back injuries kind of brought him back out for a bit. He was injured, so he had to take some time off. And by that time, the NWO had kind of exploded. Wolfpack, NWO Hollywood, and the Wolfpack was kind of like the babyface team. You had Conan, Kevin Nash, Sting, Luger. You know, it was just I don't know. I wasn't a big fan of the Wolfpack. I understood what they were doing, but it just seemed like, especially after the finger poke of doom. You don't know what I'm talking about? Look that up. Now, because I don't want to talk about that. We're talking about Curt Hennig. Now, he first joined the Wolfpack and then betrayed them and joined Hollywood. But at this point, it really didn't matter. The NWO was kind of caving in under its own weight. And he kind of went off and did his own thing. And he would team up with Barry Windham and a couple other guys. And they formed the West Texas Rednecks. And they would feud against, I shit you not, Master P's No Limit Soldiers. Who's Master P? Some of you might ask. Well, he's famous for that. Make him say, ah, ah, na, 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 na. Yeah. The guy that says, make him say, yeah, him. He was feuding with him, but it made a little gem, though. A gem that my father used to sing all the time. Rap is crap. Rap is crap. Now, Hennig would leave WCW after a while. He would do the independent scene, TNA, stuff like that, working with AJ Styles, a couple other people, until he came back, had a small run with WWE, appearing here and there, having a few good matches, and then, of course, after the infamous plane ride from hell, he got into him and Brock Lesnar got drunk, and they got into a wrestling match on the plane, which allegedly almost opened the door. Allegedly. So he got dismissed from that. Of course, Brock Lesnar, nothing happened to Brock Lesnar, of course, and he went around on the independent circuit here and there until, unfortunately, he was found dead from an overdose. Cocaine. Such a tragic end to a perfect life. Perfect career. And I haven't even gone over the matches yet. This man achieved so much outside of WWE. It seems a shame that this disc is only too long. Like only 2 discs long. Because they really didn't go over his career in AWA. They cut a lot of stuff out. They mostly have vignettes, about 6-7 matches. But the vignettes were actually really important. They made him who he was. Now, I've gone over a few of the matches and stuff as I've been doing this, but I want to talk about some of the stories they actually do talk about in this disc. He's actually friends with a baseball player named Wade Boggs. You see, it's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. You know, they had that drinking contest for Wade, the Chicken Man. Well, Curt Hennig actually saved his life. They got into a hunting accident. Boggs had ended up getting tangled in the barbed wire, and Hennig carried him out. And if it wasn't for that, he would have been dead. And Hennig was also a nefarious prankster. He was known for putting locks on people's boots. He was known for doing stuff like that. There's one time, and they won't mention the wrestler's name, he took a piece of shit in Minnesota and left it out there. Let it freeze. Let it get nice and frozen. Wrapped it up in a towel. Put it in the guy's bag. The guy didn't even notice. He drove all the way from Minnesota 8 hours to his home. And his wife actually unfolded it as it fell out of his bag. This man was a constant prankster, always laughing, always ribbing people, always trying to make someone have a good time. And it just goes to the man who loved this business, who looked out for people. You can go on a Scott Hall or he'll tell you Hennig was a good guy. That's why they brought him into the NWO. That's why they offered him a payday after he left WWE. WWE. So look up this guy. You'll find a lot of good matches, a lot of good shit talking. Even if you're just listening to his announcing, everything that man did was absolutely perfect. And you know who I am? I'm Jack Slater, the comic outlaw. And if you want to watch a great show with the perfect villain, then subscribe, man, and like. Hit us up. And as always, I'll catch you on the flip side.